therefore, it's my pleasure to host every one of us on TechBiz for today. And today again promises to be an exciting episode of TechBiz. This happens to be the 100 and let me check 18th episode of TechBiz. And in the last 117 episodes, we've had subject matter experts on this platform who have basically helped to drive our mission from Eco Innovation Center, which is basically about helping startups to be able to commercialize and providing that hand-holding that is needed for startups who operate in this ecosystem to be able to scale their businesses, grow their businesses, and achieve commercialization. TechBiz is one of the platforms that Eco Innovation Center, center set up in Lagos, Nigeria, of course, the commercial hub of West Africa and the Silicon Valley of Africa, and basically what we do in Eco Innovation Center is to see how we are able to support startups as both an incubator and as an accelerator. And this happens to be one of the platforms where we seek to provide this support to ecosystem players and also members of the ecosystem. And what TechBiz does is that it brings every last Thursday of the month, it brings subject matter experts to this platform to share with us from their world of experience. And we've dealt with all kinds of relevant topics in the past. Future-proofing your business is what we'll be talking about today, and I will dive into that. We'll talk about business model canvas, how to use them and how to apply them to your business, how to do things around property, intellectual property management and registration. How do you build the brand around your startup? How do you move from a product, just not an app, but really build a product that is commercially viable? How do you get yourself ready for investment readiness sessions? And therefore, we think in the last 117 episodes that to a large extent, our subject matter experts have shared significant value from their world experience. And today is not an exception, as I promised that we have a prolific professional in the house today, and I'll be talking about him. I mean, reading through his profile, I was blown away about the kind of work he's done. And again, we find him very relevant to what most organizations, businesses, and startups are going through at a time like this. Most of my work is around how to help startups to scale, especially in places like Africa, where we have challenges around institutions and support structures, and bringing experts like this who have done it at both small and big scale, working for small organizations, supporting small startups, and supporting bigger organizations, again, makes that there's a perfect match to our ambition and our mission from Eco Innovation Center. And therefore, I say you are welcome again. And I remain your host for TechBiz. My name is Victor Gbenga Afolabi, the founder of Eco Innovation Center. Today, we'll be talking about future-proofing your business. Very interesting, because most businesses are going through very difficult times of change and uncertainty. Yeah, I think the guys that coined the word VUCA, they were in a hurry. They released that terminology way too early. These are the times that we really call the VUCA times, where it is extremely uncertain and there's a lot of ambiguity around the business environment. And people are trying not only to survive today, but again, they're looking at that uncertain future and wondering how are they going to navigate the future. And therefore, how to lead digital transformation in the age of disruption is what he will be speaking about today, as he looks at how we future-proof our business. And even as an entrepreneur of going to about 2 decades, I can tell you, leading transformation, introducing transformation, especially technology or digital transformation, is one difficult thing that organizations struggle with. And that's why we're excited to have him here today. And then talking about the profile of our speaker. But before I go into the profile, I think there are 2 things I'd missed out, which I think I'd like for us to quickly do. First is I'd like my colleagues to drop the link to the WhatsApp group and the community link. We've got about 3,000 people thereabout who startups, subject matter experts, speakers who can provide the right support for you in your journey, which can be a very lonely journey, being a founder, a co-founder of the startup. So I'll ask my colleagues to just drop the link, which you can use to join the TechBiz Nation, which is our community. There's a Telegram group, there's a WhatsApp group. I think my colleagues will drop it in the chat right now. And again, for this particular episode and the 117 episodes of TechBiz. It's very easy for you to go through it again, listen to it. I mean, this will be up by 12 noon tomorrow. You already can see a repeat broadcast of this. I mean, if you can, I mean, it's already posted on the platform. You can always go up and take a second look at it. But for all the other 117 episodes, all you have to do is go to www.eco-innovation-center/webinar. And if you go there, my colleagues will have dropped that also in the chat, where you will find all the 117 episodes of TechBiz. Feel free to go through them, watch them. If you have questions, go to the WhatsApp group, ask your questions, tag any one of us, and I can assure you that we will provide the ongoing support that you will need for you as you embark on your journey of building the startup or growing a startup and creating transformation. Back to the topic of today, improving your business, and I think that's important. And I will talk about our speaker. He's an innovator who speaks the language, and that's what I love about technology and business. And one of the things I've seen in my close to a decade work, again, changing my from traditional businesses and supporting Growing Incubator, is that most times you hardly find people who speak the language of business and the language of innovation, technology, or startups. It doesn't come together. So most times when I see talking technology, they just connect from business, and most times when you see people who talk business, they're also struggle understanding technology. To have someone, so he speaks the language of both technology and business, and he has helped organizations launch and scale. Apologies, I think you lost me there. I think I had a network freeze. Can you hear me? Can I just get a thumbs up if you can still hear me? Oh, thank you. Super. I think I just had a technology punctuation there. And so he's someone who speaks both languages, and he has helped organizations launch and scale transformational products and services over the past 2 decades. And I find that quite impressive. You hardly have people who've had that significant amount of track record, especially in this space. He's combined deep expertise in digital transformation, product design, behavioral sciences, and enterprise AI implementation. He draws from years of experience working across startups, creative agencies, and Fortune 500 companies. His work focuses on helping organizations successfully navigate the intersection of innovation, user needs, and responsible technology development. His career spans startups and leading global firms, culminating in 8 years at McKinsey & Company in London. There, he rose to partner and led the firm's European design and digital growth practices, driving innovation and AI transformation for global organizations and at an unprecedented scale. And I'm sure listening to this, you also are excited and eager to listen to our guest speaker today. It's a pleasure to have with us this evening, who will be speaking for the next 30 minutes thereabout. And feel free to, as he speaks, drop your questions in the chat room. We will take it at the end across all platforms. Tay, you're welcome. Nice to have you on the webinar today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you for that fantastic introduction as well. It's a pleasure to be here. I guess, yeah, before I start screen sharing, I'll just give you a little bit of a introduction, or an expanded introduction to myself. So I guess kind of, the beginning of your description around me speaking the languages of both business and innovation.
Yeah.
I kind of quite apt in that kind of for many years I worked at startups. I kind of, have worked at innovation centers, helped grow and incubate startups. First as essentially a software developer. So my background is in computer science and software development, and then
Wow.
later on in product design.
Well,
And then when I moved into the management consulting world, where you're working with extremely large organizations, both government institutions and large enterprises, it
mhm.
really helped that I had the background and the hands-on software development and the building of technology to then
Wow.
go, okay, how can I translate that into a business setting to then
Mhm.
advise and kind of lead organizations as they kind of work through the tricky problems of how do we grow and scale, how do
Yeah.
we transform, but then also how do we make sure the people that are on the ground understand the mission and understand things well enough so that we're
Mhm.
all moving in the same direction. So that's kind
Very,
of the two
yeah.
worlds that I've been in. Yeah,
Yeah, it's very tough, and oscillating between both worlds can be very tricky and very difficult, and it's a
absolutely.
very
Yeah,
rare expertise. I think one of the things we've seen that affects technology adoption is really about people and getting people to understand it. I mean,
definitely.
measurement
Yeah,
can just tune and but getting people to understand and walk with you on the journey of transformation.
exactly.
From that, I
Yeah.
think that's really the big deal. But then you are the expert, and that's why you're here this evening. Side, you have the floor, my friend. Thank you.
Excellent. So let me share my screen and just kind of walk you through. So what I'll be sharing today is a combination of my own expertise and insight that I've gained working with organizations of all sizes and shapes across different industries and in different countries, but then also a lot of the research that McKinsey has done. And so McKinsey regularly runs research with large organizations and small organizations looking at what makes the ones that are most successful, what makes them stand out, and then going really deeply into those organizations with the access that we have to then understand what are the practices at these organizations that are succeeding over and above the rest, what are they doing differently, what is making them successful, what are the mindsets that they hold, what are the type of leadership decision making and frameworks and so on that they hold themselves to so that we can really start to kind of extract and really kind of distill what is it that really makes a successful organization, whether it's a startup looking to grow or a large organization that is moving through disruption. What is it that really makes them successful and stand out? So I'll talk through some of that research as well. So I guess where kind of I'd like to begin is to essentially just talk through the type of kind of environment and disruption that I think almost every organization today is facing. And so I think, whether you're talking to a bank or a mining company or an early stage startup, you'll kind of hear people talking about the fact that customer preferences are evolving. So what customers wanted and needed 5 years ago or even a year ago may not be exactly what they need today. So this is something that everyone is navigating constantly. I think the second thing is growing cost pressure. Things are becoming more expensive, whether it's technology services, whether it's kind of, even finding, funding. There is that kind of growing pressure of, okay, how do we manage our costs? The third thing is an increase in fraud, and I think that's affecting every single organization. And this means that you have to invest more in security, but it also means that you have to kind of invest more in protecting your business from that. And then, there are various flavors of fraud, but this is something that many organizations are having to tackle now. The fourth one is the war for talent. There are only a certain amount of people with both digital technical talent, with kind of strategic talent, with the right type of capabilities to help a business really grow. And all companies are essentially competing for the same talent. And so you now have a world where it's not just tech companies who are looking for the best talent. You have very early stage startups who are looking for engineers and so on. You have banks also now kind of coming into the world that are saying, hey, we're looking for the same talent. And so kind of from that fairly small pool, you have kind of lots of demand for a finite amount of supply in terms of talent. And then the last one is rising digital competition. So I think kind of a lot of people watching this will be that digital competition for the bigger companies, but you're also competing against kind of other startups and other organizations that are looking to enter your market with fresh ideas, with fresh approaches, who are also able to move more quickly than you might be able to. So I think, when you combine all these five elements, you just have a world and an ecosystem where disruption is rife and where increasingly, the business leaders and the leaders of organizations that I'm speaking to are asking the question, how do we navigate kind of the growth of our organization when we have all these five elements coming together to make things more difficult for us? And so then when we talk about kind of, digital transformation or kind of essentially using digital AI, any broad range of tools to essentially help help your business accelerate. This is what we're talking about. How do we apply the broad range of technologies and applications that enable us to be more efficient, that enable us to kind of, drive automation, that enable better decision making, better connectivity with customers and stakeholders, and enable us to be more innovative. So, this is what kind of digital tools and technologies are just able to do to a company or organization. And I think whether you're a big or small organization, you're asking yourself the question, or should be asking yourself the question, how do we use digital tools and technologies to enable all the things on this page, to enable us to be a better, more efficient organization, and to essentially to enable us to do more with less. And so this is something that a lot of older companies are grappling with, and a lot of newer companies do naturally. But I think also, even as a new company, it's a mindset that you should put yourself in to say, okay, how can we be more efficient with the resources that we have? And digital just allows us to kind of really accelerate that. And so what I'm gonna kind of talk through is, three major elements that I see and that kind of research shows that you should have in place if you really want your business or your organization to grow above and beyond what it's capable of. And the first one is really around how you, what we call hardwire the company. So what is that company construct that you're building? What is that way of working that you're putting together where you can essentially kind of move quickly? So you hardwire the company for speed, where we can be integrated, i.e., we have kind of very clear communication channels between the different parts of the organization. We're well integrated and we're moving as one. And fact orientation, i.e., we're using data and facts to make decisions as opposed to gut feeling to make decisions. And what we find is that the organizations that are hardwired for these three things, for speed, integration, and fact orientation, are the organizations that tend to perform best, not just through periods of disruption, but best overall, and that grow the fastest. And so what I'm going to show you is kind of, this is from a piece of research that we did, I think, a year and a half ago, where we looked at companies who kind of indexed the most on, being able to move quickly on integration and fact orientation. And then we looked at six dimensions. And those six dimensions are aligned to, okay, am I growing quickly as a company, and am I successful as a company in terms of my revenue, in terms of my customers, and so on. And so these charts essentially show, okay, the companies that kind of practice these six elements, what are they doing that the companies that don't practice these elements are doing? And so if I use the first one as an example, it's our products and services consistently lead the industry in meeting emerging customer demands. And what you find is that 62% of companies hardwired for speed, integration, and factor orientation say yes to this, whereas only 14% of the companies that aren't hardwired this way say yes to that. So it means that you're 4.5 times more likely to have products and services that consistently lead the industry if you are hardwired for speed, integration, and factor orientation. And so similarly, you can look at those kind of, those data points for the other five elements. So we are best in class in speed of new product development. Our new products consistently hit their targets in the market. Our R&D investments drive significant new growth, and we're consistently ahead in discovering white space, i.e., in launching new products or features or services that others don't have, and that the market actually demands or kind of has a desire for, i.e., they're successful. And then lastly, we scale new businesses or product lines faster than the industry standard. So you see in some of these instances, you are, for example, 9 times more likely to kind of to have, sorry, so yeah, for example, you're 9 times more likely to be consistently ahead in discovering, white space, for example, if you're hardwired for speed, integration, and factor orientation. So this just goes to show how important that is in actually driving positive outcomes as an organization. Um, the second element is, do you have a culture of innovation? That means from the very top, from you as a leader, all the way through to your employees, do you have within the organization a really strong element of people kind of having the desire to create new things, having the desire to improve existing processes, and having the desire to essentially be more than they are today. And the inverse of that is, when you don't have a culture of innovation, people are just happy doing what they've always done and have no desire to constantly improve things. And I think, when we look at the data and we say, okay, when we look at kind of, companies that don't have strong innovation cultures, which is that first column, companies that just have average innovation cultures, and companies that have very strong innovation cultures, um, what to what level do they succeed when they want to actually embark on a digital transformation? And you see that kind of the ones with the strongest innovation are the ones that don't stall, and the ones that actually kind of, that are successful, whereas the ones that with a very weak innovation culture are almost twice as likely not to succeed in transformations. And then I think when you actually dig down into the details, and sorry, I know some of these charts are a little bit dense, but I'll try and kind of summarize them as well as I can. So this essentially shows, okay, when we talk about an innovation culture, what are the actual practices that kind of constitute that? And so, on the one hand, you have business leaders that are presented with data-driven, actionable insights that help drive value. The second one is internal processes, products, and customer interactions are designed for data capture. You also have our organization has reorganized from functional silos to integrated cross-functional teams. We integrate end user focus in an end-to-end way across the organization. And then this last one, agile practices are widely adopted in the organization. So you see that some of these practices kind of can drive, you being kind of, 9 to 10 times more likely to actually succeed because because you have these practices within your organization. And this is what we mean by having an innovation culture. These are some of the specific things that you as an organization are fostering within your employees and within your company to enable you to move quicker, to enable you to constantly kind of improve yourself as an organization and improve your products and services aligned to what your customers and what your clients need. So that's the second element, kind of, fostering a culture of innovation. The third element, I think, is one that is often overlooked when we talk about leadership, when we talk about kind of, having a successful organization in terms of disruption, in terms of kind of outdoing the market. I think it's often overlooked, okay, how does the leader of the organization, whether, it's a CEO, whoever's leading a unit, what are the attributes and mindsets that they have? And kind of, you have a lot of evidence and research to show that the way that you lead an organization as an individual, and if you lead with an aspirational mindset, that has a drastic kind of positive effect on whether your organization as a whole is successful. So the profile of the leader and what are the practices that leader is following. And so when we kind of say an aspirational mindset, kind of, this was a big piece of research that we did to essentially look at, okay, the most successful leaders that are not just successful at the one company, but that are successful at multiple companies as well. What do they do differently? And what are the practices that they say, okay, this is what I hold true as a leader? And what we essentially found that there are 5 consistent practices, and the leaders that adopt 3 or more of these practices or mindsets are, more than twice as likely to outperform their peers. And those 5 practices are: number one, I focus on long-term growth. And so 60% of the top leaders, the most successful leaders say this: I focus on long-term growth. I have a clear multi-year mandate, and I have the autonomy to do so without having to show short-term results. So they really focus on the future, and they're not kind of worried if there is a month or two where they're not successful, because they know that kind of the path that they're on and the mission that they've set is a long-term one, as opposed to just looking at short-term results. The second one is I have a growth story I tell all the time. So, which essentially means I'm communicating my successes often, both internally and externally. So, as you're on the mission to that long-term growth, the successful hurdles you cross, or the successful barriers you pass, are you communicating them? Are you telling those stories? Are you motivating your organization, but also, motivating the market around you with those success stories? The third element is I favor timely action over perfection. And this is something I see a lot of leaders get stuck up on, sometimes, where it's okay, I need things to be perfect over I need things to be done well and done quickly. And I think, that comes back to the second point we made about or the first point about hardwiring the company for speed. So am I making decisions quickly, as opposed to kind of having consensus across the entire organization, or making the perfect decision? And so we find that 70% of the most successful leaders do this. They prioritize speed over perfection. The fourth one, which is I think one of the most important ones, is I am willing to fail. And again, 70% of top leaders exhibit this, and which is, I am making multiple bets. So I know that I won't always be successful, which means I operate with a mindset of I will do some risky things, and I'll take some risks, because I know that it's okay if I fail at some of those, versus the leaders who say, I'm not going to do anything risky. I will just kind of, go along and do things that I know to be safe. And if you're doing things that you know to be safe, you're never actually kind of challenging not only yourself, but you're less likely to be launching, products that no one else has thought of. You're less likely to be kind of taking your new ideas forward, and so on. And so, again, this fourth one is quite important, is kind of having the willingness to fail. The fifth one is I know my customer as a person, and I think this is a key one. I think in any type of business or industry that you're in, you ultimately have a buyer that you're trying to sell to, whether you're B2B, whether you're B2C. And the leaders that do the best are the ones that actually go and step into their customers' shoes. They really build an understanding of their customers' needs, whether that's the formal or informal settings, but they kind of almost kind of intrinsically understand the needs of their customers, so that the products and services they're building, they know that this is right for my customer, because I've almost walked in the shoes of my customer. And kind of, one example I really like to show here is, this is Anjali Sud. She's the CEO of Vimeo, and she spends about 10% of her week every single week understanding the market, speaking with customers, speaking with other startups in video technology. And so this is a key part of kind of her. She sees her role as CEO is to really know and understand her customers. And I don't think you find many people that say I spend 10% of my time every single week with customers, and understanding what's happening in the market. So I think this is quite kind of inspiring to see kind of a CEO of a major company openly kind of telling these stories and openly saying this. And then when, so the kind of the three elements, hardwiring the company for speed, integration, and factor orientation. Two, fostering a culture of innovation, enabling those positive behaviors. And three, leading with an aspirational mindset. I think when they come together, you essentially kind of, need to think of, okay, what is the framework that I have for my organization in terms of how all these things come together practically? And so, so this is kind of, how I like to think of these things as a framework. And so, if you look at this from the perspective of a leader, or the perspective of your organization, essentially it's these kind of six elements that all need to be there if you really want to grow successfully in a systematic way. One, you have your strategic roadmap. you have kind of that clear path forward to say, here's what I'm aspiring to, here is what I will do and what I won't do, and here's what I'm holding the company to. So that kind of, growth roadmap that we talked about, that kind of, multi-year plan, that's where that strategic roadmap kind of comes in, and that governs a lot of your decision making. The second one is I have the right talent. I have the right people around me, and I have the right capabilities in order to succeed and in order to make the strategic roadmap come true. The third one is, do I have the right operating model? Am I really focusing on how my people work together, on how kind of, the different units or departments in my organization are operating? And am I ensuring that I have the right functions in order to kind of, again, to kind of drive the strategic roadmap forward? The fourth one is technology. Do I have the right tools and technology to enable me to make those better decisions, to enable me to be more integrated, to enable me to be more innovative, and like I said at the beginning, to do more with less. The fourth one, which is increasingly becoming more and more important for organizations, is, do I have the right foundations to collect data and to use that data in a meaningful way? So am I driving my decisions forward with fact orientation, with the right data? And in some cases, am I using my data as my equity? A lot of organizations are finding that the data that they hold on customers is what makes them stand out from the competition. And so that's increasingly becoming a very, very important element. And then the last one, which kind of, I've made the biggest because a lot of times is the most important, it's adoption and scaling. Do I have an approach? Do I have a strategy for my product or service being adopted, and for scaling, both across kind of the organizations that I'm working with and within, and for evangelizing this with my customers. And so I think, that if you're talking about a very early stage startup, I think, the challenge that they typically have is, how do I scale? And so kind of having a clear plan for that brings these elements together is critical. So, how do I make the most of my talent, my operating model, my technology and data in a way that allows me to scale, but also in a way that's aligned to my strategic roadmap? And so kind of, this is all to say that these kind of 6 elements coming together is how those kind of three kind of big pillars that I talked about at the beginning, how they come together in kind of a framework or a systematic way to enable companies to really move forward in kind of, the disruptive times we're in. And what kind of, in my experience, the companies that think about these 6 things systematically and think and have a plan for these 6 things are the companies that tend to do well, and also that tend to have leaders that think in a way that's aligned with the mindsets that I spoke about earlier. So, I just wanted to close with this as kind of, the final framework. I know that I've moved through a lot of kind of, elements kind of rather quickly, but we will share these slides with you, so that kind of you have access to them and can look at them in more detail. But I guess, it'd be great to connect with all of you on LinkedIn, and then I guess we can move into the questions, any questions that are out there right now.
Thank you so much. I think that was packed in short, in such a short time. But again, quick takeouts that I find quite insightful. Over my work, going to close to a decade working with startups and founders and new venture promoters, I've seen that most times we kind of isolate ourselves from the market, and kind of want to constantly keep building. Okay, most times we over-engineer, most times our MVP of what we built is not actually what the market wants, and we struggle with a lot of product market fits, which I think again frustrates most of the ambitions of many startups. And I find that quite instructive, that when you share the survey of many of the CEOs who have been able to quickly move and grow, they spend sufficient time with customers, they've spent sufficient time, trying to
Mm.
get feedback. And I find that quite instructive. The CEOs and startup founders, our job really is not behind the system, it's not behind the computers. It should be a lot
Yeah.
more in the marketplace, getting feedback from our customers, from our clients, I'm the kind of person also who promotes openly discussing at times some of your plans with people who give you, who just, a bouncing board, a brain trust. A couple of
Yeah.
founders,
Yeah.
founders also struggle. Oh, I don't want my idea to be stolen, and a couple of things. In the end, you end up building something that has no use for the marketplace because you just were not open to feedback and you did not take, you didn't take insights even from
Mm.
competition. And like the CEO said, at times you even need to speak to competition, find out what they're thinking, because now is a world of collaboration much more than competition. So I find that quite instructive. And again, opening slides is, it's quite a bit. We need to put together also that is happening right now about future proofing and driving technology. But one exciting thing I find in your opening slide is those 6 dynamics and how they come together. And I can say for Africa, one of the biggest challenges we have to deal with is talent. So yes, there are quite a number of people. The question is, how skilled are the people? How, what's the capacity to solve the problem? What's the capacity to be able to, take those things? And so I find out that, based on my work and research, that quite a number of ambitions get frustrated around, like you said, the battle for talent and skill, which is the things that organizations, both small and medium and big, are dealing with right now. Thanks for that presentation. A lot packed in such a short time. Thank you. If you don't mind, I'll go to a few of the questions,
Of
which I
course. Yeah.
think quite a number of people have dropped for us. And I think the first one is, how can my business build resilience against technological disruptions? Wow. This is the first time I'm hearing this. Somebody wants to stand against the trend. Okay, how do you build against technology disruptions? I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, I think this is a great question because the pace of technology disruptions is increasing. You have AI, you have generative AI, you have and so
Agentic AI, agentic
yeah,
AIs are here now.
yeah, exactly. And we've moved from a world maybe a decade or two ago where you heard of disruption maybe once every few years,
Mhm.
to now where you hear about it, every few weeks, where there is the latest AI model and so on. And so I think the companies that are able to, I wouldn't even say defend yourself because I don't think you can defend yourself because it's
I
coming.
agree. I agree.
Companies that are able to best move with that disruption are the
Mhm.
companies that are architectured for flexibility.
Mm,
So, can we be agile? Can we move quickly?
mm,
Or are we very rigid and stuck and linked to kind of, a set of technologies, a set of mindsets and ways of working that can't be changed easily? The companies that can adapt easily are the
mm,
companies that can ride that wave and kind of change with the times, so to speak. And that also means adopting the new technologies to make you more effective. So having an eye on what can actually make me a better company or more efficient company, make me achieve my mission more effectively if I adopt some of these technologies. So I think the way to think about it is not necessarily about building resilience, but building adaptability so you can ride that wave because it's coming, whether you like it or not. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And again, thanks for that wonderful response. And I did share with someone who again was not a millennial. I thought it was more Gen X and was very concerned about AI and all that. I say, hey, guess what? We survived the onslaught of emails. I do remember when I started my career over 2 decades ago. If you start working just around the millennial or before you find out that there were not so many people with email addresses.
Mm.
I remember I told someone, I said, working my second or third job when BlackBerry came, and before I quit the job, BlackBerry had left, and the world of pinging and all those things. Remember the BlackBerries? So again, for me, I think some of these technologies, there's no way we can fortify ourselves against them or avoid them. I'm part of people who believe that the use of AI and AI tools will be as pervasive as people having email addresses today or having a social media handle. That's how pervasive I think we're going to have those AI tools across different work streams, across different facets of our lives. I mean, many people are already using AI for different things, recommendations and all that on streaming platforms without even knowing. But I mean, effectively and actively engaging AI tools, I think is going to be for businesses and even individuals. It's like the way you have a social media handle or have an email address. I think it's going to be very pervasive. So if I might, echo your response to that person, it's more around improving your agility, improving your flexibility, and coming to the terms that this has come to stay, and you just have to find ways to adapt and because you will just not be able to function or work or be effective or be productive or be efficient in the future without one or two AI tools for you to use. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, see what technology has done. I see what technology has done. I mean, we're seeing with technology, with more, we're having more global communication platforms where we can stream, we can have chats, we can do so many other things. We've seen, even I remember when I wanted to do Harvard way before COVID, there was no Harvard online option then. I mean, then COVID came, and then now you see that many institutions have the in-person and the online versions of Ivy League schools. So again, it's the new world, and I think echo your response, prepare for it, be resilient, be open, and be flexible. Yeah. The second question, I'd say is, what emerging technologies should startups pay attention to in 2025 and beyond? And I think this person is drawing from our question to say future-proofing your business. Are there and you can speak to any of the sectors based on your expertise and the work you've done. Are there some emerging technologies which you think everybody needs to really understand how they work and really pay attention to for the next 1 or 2 years? Because I'm sure you will not speak for the next 3 to 5 years.
No, that's true. That's true.
Nobody, but for the next 24 months, what do you see?
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of some of the most exciting technology is in the generative AI space because I mean you have your chat GPTs and so on that are able to generate content, to synthesize content, but you increasingly have kind of very, very specific AI families of AI tools that are designed to handle specific tasks for you in a more automated and efficient fashion. So you have AI tools that can handle customer service calls and do that kind of to the level that a human being can at a far cheaper cost. You have AI tools that are able to do customer prospecting for you, where they will go on LinkedIn, find target customers that meet criteria, send them messages, communicate, and kind of do that at a scale that where you need a whole team, and you are just having an AI tool go out there and do kind of 50 target customers in 1 minute versus what a human could do. And so I think whatever your business is, I think what you'll find is that there are a new breed of tools that are designed to handle the tasks that are painful for you as an organization. And these tools are very accessible. So what I would do is do research starting from, okay, look at myself as a company, look at where my people are investing a lot of time and energy in activities that aren't necessarily value adding, and then say, what are the other tools out there that are designed to help me be more efficient in those areas? Yeah.
Super. I mean, it's a perfect way to have said it. So again, take the feedback. It's you have to. I mean, there's just not one tool. I mean, he had said generative AI, but I think much more than that. What you said about prospecting, I find quite interesting. Again, these days, even when I had this funny experience where I had to work on my ticket flying back from the US, and for like I think 2 hours across different airlines, we were engaging just purely agents, and the agents were able to solve quite a lot of the problems, tell you the things that were happening, until it was something that went beyond the ability of agents to deal with. And then you had to get on a speak to a person as an agent. But again, that took an exception and not the rule. But most of the times, you are when you make phone calls, they're directing you back to the site, they're directing back to AI agents and all that. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the future, especially for where repetitive tasks are being involved. I suspect we'll have some tools already developed somewhere that people just need to leverage. So yeah, I think generative AI, but much more than that, look at repetitive business, customer
Yeah,
service, customer relationship management, a couple of all that, and let's see how we can use AI tools to do that.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, very apt. What are some quick wins that startup or SMEs can implement immediately to future-proof their businesses? Everybody likes is the world of fast food. So I just the magic word. So they're
Yeah.
asking you, look at your crystal ball and tell them from the or waving the magic wand, what should I implement immediately to future proof my business?
So you're not gonna like my answer.
That's good.
There are no such things as quick wins. I really I believe that things that are meaningful are not typically easy or quick and require a trade-off.
Mm,
So I think rather than thinking of it as what are some things I can do quickly that kind of, can help me future-proof, it's really starting from what does my business need? What are the traits or mindsets that I want to develop? And then therefore, what will help me get there? And yes, some things will help you get there quicker than others, but it needs to start you need to start strategically. I think if you're just going out and copying what someone else is doing and assuming that you'll get the same effect as quickly, I think that's the wrong way to go about it. So I do think you need to think a bit more systematically about some of these things. And so I'm deliberately not going to give you any quick wins because I want everyone to actually think through what does my
mm.
business need? What is going to drive value? How can I get closer to my customers before you then think of what are the actions that I should take that align to those priorities?
Fully agree. I mean, that's quite insightful. And again, we need to move away from just hip shooting and doing the work. Founders, business leaders, we need to roll our sleeves and just get in there. Just having it prescribed to us at times doesn't give you the real experience. And it's a transformational journey for both you as a founder of a
Mm.
business and the organization. And I wonder why people always want to trade off that growth journey, that experience, that transformation you
Yeah,
become.
yeah.
People want to trade that, to just, the benefits and benefits again, beyond the financial benefits. I think organizations become a totally different being of people when they go through these processes. And that's why
Yeah,
I'm big
exactly.
for going through
Yeah.
processes.
Yeah, and I think there is as much value in going through the journey and learning from how you've gone through the journey as there
Mhm.
is in the outcome. And so
Sure.
if you're trying to rush to the outcome without going through the journey, then what you're likely to do is in the future make mistakes because you haven't actually understood what made this decision the best decision, what along this journey was actually most valuable for my business. Yeah.
Super. I think that's quite impressive. Thank you so much for that. Somebody was asking a question. I'm just trying to if it's relevant. So he's looking for factors that determines when a company is ready for digital transformation. Do I see telltale signs? Do I look at my financial statement? What,
Hmm.
or arguably looking at how you work with small businesses, big organizations, how are you able to look at your clients and say, hey guys, you need to go through this process right now? Things like that. Are there
Yeah.
factors?
I guess readiness I see kind of like on two levels. Readiness being like as an organization, do we have all the elements that will increase the chances of success?
Mhm.
And then on the other hand, readiness being like, do we have a clear plan and strategy in place for where we're actually trying to go to? And so I think the I don't think that any company will just naturally be ready.
Yeah.
So when you say, like, how do I know if I'm ready? You
Mhm.
need to get yourself ready. So you need to have that plan in place. It won't just come organically. So you need to have that plan in place, and that plan will then help you say, where do I need to invest more or less? Do I need to invest more in the culture change? If culturally as an organization, my people are just, resistant of any change, then I need to be able to, that's something I need to be able to kind
Express.
of change or reconstruct in order to be successful. But it starts with a plan. And so I think that plan will just help you say, okay, where are the areas I do need to push more on versus the areas that kind of, are already okay and kind of allow me to move forward as quickly as I can.
Super. Thank you so, so much. And I mean, quite a barrage of questions, but I'll take the final one so we can be able to respect our people's time and finish on the hour. And I find this question quite interesting. Can you share a real world example of a business that you successfully navigated digital transformation and what we can learn from it? So they're just looking for any of the case studies, a big firm, a small startup
Yeah.
firm, any of your clients, whether in McKinsey or in your personal capacity. Can you just tell us a case study and what we
Yeah.
can learn from that, and then we can let you
Yeah.
go.
So
So
I think one of the kind of, I guess, the best examples that you can really study is of Starbucks. So I mean, when you think about, like, I mean, they're a chain of coffee shops. They sell
yeah.
coffee. So when you think about digital transformation, you wouldn't traditionally jump to kind of, a chain of coffee shops, but they are the largest chain of kind of coffee shops and cafes in the world. They are in almost every country. And I think it was in the early 2000s or so, they oh sorry, the mid 2000s. I think this was like around 2015 or 2016.
Yeah.
Um, they realized that in order for their business to keep growing at the rate that they wanted to grow across regions and categories and to keep having the customer revenue that they wanted, they needed to think of themselves not just as a chain of coffee shops,
Mhm.
but to essentially say we need to utilize digital to enable our customers to engage with us in new ways, but that's the way that we're going to get our business to grow. So what they did was essentially, come up with a digital transformation strategy that was centered around kind of four elements. So one is rewards. We want to reward our customers if they use, digital means to order with us and so on. Two, we want to use data and personalization to give our customers a better experience. Um, Three, we want to introduce digital payment methods. And four, we want to make it easier for customers to order with us by
Mm.
using digital means. And so this was kind of the framework that the plan and framework that they put together. And so they kind of launched the Starbucks app. They launched kind of digital payments and ordering. And we're now in a place where I think the latest was more than 80% of their customers use the Starbucks app for
Mm.
ordering. And it's improved loyalty dramatically. It's improved their revenue across regions dramatically as a result of this digital transformation they embarked on. And I think rather interestingly, when COVID came about, because they started this before COVID,
Great.
when it hit, they were prepared. They were ready because they already had the digital ordering and so on. And so
Mm.
while others in their category really struggled, because they'd embarked on this digital transformation, they kind of, were one of the very few kind of, food related or kind of beverage related companies to actually thrive under the COVID restrictions. And I know there have been books published about kind of how they did it and so on, but I think that's a great case study to look at because it took a very traditional industry that you wouldn't think of as digital, and they did it quite early. And so the strategy and the journey that they went on, I think is quite an inspiring one in terms of also in terms of the scale at which they did it. So Starbucks is definitely one that I'd kind of recommend taking a look at.
Thank you so much. And yes, I find that quite insightful. I think I'd seen the write-up on that case study themselves, and quite a number of firms have done very well in their digital transformation.
Yeah,
And I think it's only the way to go for organizations to be able to scale at a more efficient manner and at a larger capacity. We just need to be able to adopt the technology transformation that is needed
exactly.
for our businesses. Because if the whole world is going in that direction, it becomes counterintuitive to want to stay in the traditional models, which is quite expensive, which is not very efficient in the
Exactly.
long.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, when you look at the cost of acquisition from the traditional method or digital, you find out that your cost of acquisition, cost of reach, if you come to area of media where I've worked for over 2 decades, I mean, when you look at traditional media costs, the cost per contact, and I look at my digital platforms cost per contact, I mean, they're two different worlds, two different worlds.
Exactly.
You can justify it by saying, oh, it has to be a mix, you know, I could miss some people in here. But again, when you look strictly at numbers, technology has to a large extent demystified the cost to serve and the cost to reach in the media space, for example. And we're seeing a lot of things about content. I mean, imagine what traditional TV channels were dealing with in terms of content, but now we're seeing YouTube democratizing content. We're seeing all the platforms with people's reels and TikTok and all that. It's entertainment, 2-3 hours. People are stuck in there. I mean, it's user-generated content, but it's content people are looking for. So whether it's a TV content from a cable satellite or it's content on my mobile phone and I'm getting entertained, it's content either way. It's how you look at it. So I think ultimately embracing technology, digital transformation is the way for every business to be leapfrog, because in the near future, every organization will have some level of technology utilization up to one degree or the other. I mean, some more than others, but a time will come where everybody basically is technology led.
Exactly. No, beautifully put.
Yeah, and again, one interesting thing I tell quite a number of people in the ecosystem here is that now we're going to the age where we're going to see a lot of no code products being built, you know, and I think that's what AI is coming to solve. Now that we're struggling with talents, I mean, you started your world as a software developer, we're struggling having so many software developers and engineers. With what's happening now, people will be shocked that there'll be so many apps that'll be built by AI robots and all that. No codes. You don't require so much codes and all that. Products, I mean, for 2 years will be built in 2 months, and the world is going to change. Careers will change, and so I think people just need to be open because it's upon us. It's upon us.
Absolutely. No, fully agree.
Hey, thank you so much. I mean, I see it's 3 minutes down the line. I was supposed to have started drawing the curtains a few minutes ago, but I was just enjoying, you know, the engagement with you, because you sit in that part of the world working across different continents, where in Africa the ecosystem is trying to do a lot of catch up. So when I hear some of the inspiring work and stories you guys have done over a decade ago, it gives a kind of beam light or a beacon to what is possible in our ecosystem and possible in this part of the world. And that's why it was a pleasure engaging for this 1 hour. Thank you so much. We feel very honored that you have taken your time to invest into our ecosystem back here in Africa. You've taken your time, your effort, and from your wealth of experience gathered over 2 decades, you have, you know, given us, a peep into the kind of expertise and experience you have by sharing your slides and this 1 hour with us. Not taken for granted at all. We do appreciate you. And on behalf of myself and the whole ecosystem and all the participants on the call today, I want to say a big thank you to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me.
We do look forward to, of course, engaging you on other platforms subsequently. And for all the participants, I do respect to have 2 minutes to pull the curtain. This recording, as well as these slides, will be available to you. All you have to do is bring the community, you'll get the slides. And of course, for you to be able to get this recording, as well as the 117 other recordings before this one, my colleagues have dropped the link in the group. It's www.ecoicenter.com/webinar. You will find all of it there. Go over it again. There are quite a number of things that have been said, some questions answered, in which maybe you need to play back again to get the import of it. Please do. And it's there. It's just on YouTube. Just feel free. Just learn away. I mean, we're moving away from the traditional way of learning. There's so many ways to learn now, too many e-channels. You don't need those brick and mortar classrooms. Just learn away. And of course, we're there in the community. Should you need any question, clarification, or guidance, just drop us a chat. My colleagues will again drop those links in the chat to the link to the webinars, which you'll find from 12 noon tomorrow. This will be added to the library. And of course, the link to the community is also being dropped in the chat room by my colleagues now. Quickly, we have one of our flagship events coming up in the month of May. And I would like my colleagues to pull up the flyer as we talk about MAC-ARC, which is the intersection of technology, a conference that speaks to the intersection of technology and marketing, and is brought to you from the stables of Eco Innovation Center and GDM Group. And it's a way in which we're preparing organizations in the creative space, in the marketing space, for the disruption that is upon us. And we'll be discussing a lot around these tools, gamification in there. Can BingPay or anyone share the flyers or share maybe the animated video, just something for all the persons who are on the platform again, so that we can send this invite to them. MACAC is coming up in May 23rd. Can someone share right now that for me? The flyer or the video, and it promises to be a great event. It's happening in Landmark. But again, we're having startups. Okay, yeah. So what are you sharing? Flyers? Let me let the flyer speak, or the... Yes. So this is the prize pool, and this is speaking to startups. BingPay, I'll suggest you also have a video ready, because to go up after this. Is speaking to startups. We have a prize pool of $10,000, which we will be giving to startups who will be getting to the finals and winning the prize for the MACAC. MACAC is not a hackathon; it's a conference that speaks to talking about the future of the intersection of technology and marketing, and how technology will continue to disrupt the field and the world of marketing, and how you can get yourself, your business, your career ready for the future. But apart from that, we'll also be spotlighting and showcasing startups who have adopted technology in this marketing and technology space, and who are able to demonstrate an MVP, and they will be winning some prizes. But much more than that is that there will be significant collaborations between organizations, and we have a lot of subject matter experts that will be in-house. I was hoping my colleagues could share the video, but of course they will drop that later. I do not want to keep us here, but please make it a date. Make sure you register for MACAC, the 4th edition of MACAC. Please make sure you register for it, and we promise you that it's going to be an explosive event that we will be having. Okay. On that note, I want to say thank you for joining TechBiz again today. We do appreciate your time to let us into your system, your private space, and all that, and bring this to you, hoping that it serves the mission we have in Echo Innovation Center to support startups, founders, and ecosystem players in the journey to scaling their organizations and achieving commercialization. I do hope that today again has been very instrumental and provided information as you walk on the journey. I want to say a big thank you. I remain your host and the founder of Echo Innovation Center, Victor Gbenga Afolabi, saying thank you very much, and do see you next month. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.